I'm sorry, Beth, but the tribe has spoken.
And you're gay.
I don't know how those are equated, but I love it.
I just like the idea that the tribe got together and said,
You're gay.
We've decided you're gay. As if like it's other people's.
Oh, God. No, I need an all gay version of Survivor, but it's all very petty white gay men that all will just infight with each other.
That's just called RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars.
It is.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hot Mess Moments.
Look at Beth standing up. Ooh, look at that. She got a standing desk now. She's a professional.
Yeah. I want it known that I keep forgetting that I fully have neighbors who are looking into my building while I'm just like sitting here twerking. So good times.
And your neighbors, they also love to see, they love to show themselves twerking as well.
Have we talked about this on the podcast?
We have purposely left out the interesting part, I think, of the conversation. Actually, no, we did mention it.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah. Then
worth mentioning again.
Beth's neighbors had sex.
We saw it.
Yeah, we saw it. We got live porn. Like, it was
the best
crazy.
part is you're the one who caught it. So Dylan's at the seat on this, it goes Dylan, Nigel, Beth sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
Dylan's closest to the window. First of all, we're all watching Twilight. It was a moment.
Drunk as fuck.
Super drunk. And all of a sudden, this is my impersonation of Dylan. Ready? Ah! Look at over there.
That is me. I was like,
Well, first you thought it was. Didn't you think it was two guys at first?
I thought it was a guy masturbating. And I was like, oh my God, is that a guy masturbating right now with the window open?
Oh, with the window open?
Or sorry, the curtains open.
That's a whole other image.
And then I saw titties and I was like, ah!
That's how you screamed. I think you were like, oh my God, they're having sex. And then Nigel goes, where? And then but there was no reason to ask where, because if you looked out my window and you looked across the street, right there, the answer is in your there. Face.
Yeah.
So we're watching. And then I go, you know what, guys, we really shouldn't watch. And you guys were like, yeah, we shouldn't. So all three of our heads turned back to the movie. And then literally within the next 15 seconds, all three of us, I watched because I was the one who was farthest away from the window. All three of us, for those that are watching the video and those who aren't watching, this would be a good time to come. This is exactly how we all went. So we're watching the movie. And then all of a sudden you just kind of see this.
Our eyes just keep darting back and forth, and then our heads, yes. We're like craning over. And they knew we were watching too. It was a show.
I'm sad because they have had their blinds drawn ever since then. I've literally never seen them.
You're like, since. Open up the OnlyFans.
Yeah, I was like, I'll donate. What if I had put up a sign on the window that was like, if you were the ones fucking, I will give you money for OnlyFans.
Money, let me watch again. And actually it wasn't like too crazy, but it was like it was intense. Like it
wasn't crazy, but it was hard.
She was choked and
she was choked.
Yeah, there was a lot of spanking.
There was a lot of spanking. And not just with his hand. There was an appendage that was being used as well for that.
There was a lot of spanking. But welcome to Hot Mess Moments.
It's so funny. This is in no way a spoiler or anything like that, but there is an episode in the Nanny
where Maxwell fucks Fran like that.
Yes, and where they're talking about a couple of times. It's just the idea of being in New York and seeing people having relations and the various reactions to that. But, oh no, I can't watch. And I was like, that's us in that moment.
That was us. But welcome everyone to Hot Mess Moments.
Yeah.
This is the Nanny episode for this week. We are going to be covering season 2, episode 3 of the Nanny. I believe it's Everybody Needs a Bubby Sometimes.
It is.
And my name is Dylan Zahner, also known as 8-Bit Dylan online. My favorite show is Lost, but I've never seen The Nanny before because that's Beth's favorite show.
It is. He knew going into this that he wasn't allowed to watch my favorite show, even before we were friends.
It's true.
Until this moment. No, it's my favorite show. I've watched it since, I was a little kid and it was first coming on in the 90s. I watched it all throughout middle school and high school when it was in syndication, and it would be on at like 5 and 5:30 every single day on Nick when I got home.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. It was on Nick.
Yeah, it was on Nick, and then it went to Nick at Night, where I watched it in college when I would sneak off from my friends who were all like, "We're gonna go to this party now," and I was like, "Yeah, me too." And then I would like leave them without them noticing, and then I'd go to my room and be like, "Now I'm just gonna watch The Nanny when I go to sleep," and it would be like midnight. And then
wait, I'm now thinking. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, I'm happy.
But this show, especially this episode, directly references sex. So I'm shocked this was on Nick.
This was on Nickelodeon at like 5 p.m.
That's crazy to me.
In the early 2000s. And it was, but it came on after the Golden Girls, which also always talked about sex. That was on at 4 and 4:30. So Nickelodeon, like basically when Nick Jr. until about noon, and then played cartoons until like 4, and then would be like, randomly we're gonna play Golden Girls and then The Nanny, and then Everybody Loves Raymond, and then it would go back to like,
God, you're right.
And then it would turn into like cartoons again.
Oh no, that was Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network. That was Cartoon Network. Like Looney Tunes and like late night shit. Yeah. Toonami. Oh my God, this taking me back.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. I have a story. I want to know the story.
Bring me in on this.
I have never felt more old than this week. This week we went to an antique store. Nearly everything in this antique store was from my childhood. I was like,
what do you mean? Like, do you mean like furniture that your family had?
Furniture? No. Like, everything from my era of when I was a kid was in this antique store. Okay, there was like
toys,
books, movies. There were decorations that would always get put up during like Halloween and stuff like that. Board games that came out in like the 90s, early 2000s.
I want an example of a board game. What was a board game?
They had, when they used to come out with weird versions of Clue, not like the themed versions, not like The Simpsons, Clue, and stuff like that. I mean, like, there would be like a weird VHS version of the Clue or DVD version of the Clue, a DVD Twilight trivia game. Like, things.
Seen it.
Things like that.
Seen it.
Trivial Pursuit Disney edition. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, can we get into this for a brief second?
Go for it.
Gen Z will never know how much millennials just said, we're going to take mom and dad's favorite games and put it in a DVD so that we can just yell at each other while we're watching TV. Like that's like Seen It was basically like, all right, guys, let's play Harry Potter Seen It. And we're going to show you a clip from Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And it'll be like, how many times did like Harry wave his wand? And then you'd have to be like, it was 4 times. No, it was 5 times. And then you would punch your grandmother. It was like a whole thing.
I remember that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Grandma got punched a lot.
She sure did. R.I.P.
Seen It? Do you remember Cranium?
Okay.
Cranium was like that girl.
Can I tell you my most embarrassing moment playing Cranium? It still sticks with me today. So I was playing with Big Brother 17 winner Steve Moses' family over at their place.
Humble brag.
This was many years before he was on Big Brother. To the point where he wasn't even playing because he was far too young. And I was playing and I had to mime, because you remember you could do charades as like one of them?
Yeah, that was
I had to do charades as a clam.
The fuck?
And my stupid ass decided to get on the ground and fold my body upwards like this.
I would get that. I would think that too.
So everyone's like, why didn't you just do this with your hands where you like make a clam and everything? And I was so embarrassed that like Mrs. Moses, my band teacher, her husband, my parents, my choir teacher and his wife, and like 3 other of my teachers who we were playing with all called me out on my stupidity. And like, it's literally haunted me for about 20 years.
I think the main concerning part of that entire story is the fact that you were hanging out with your teachers.
My dad was the high school principal. So like all of our family friends were like the faculty and such. So
did you ever see them like wasted?
All the time.
Oh my God.
I saw them doing shooters, like the test tube shooters, and then pretending
body shots.
Then I saw them doing shots, and then I would pretend with them because I was a ham and I wasn't drinking, but I would pretend to like do synchronized swimming like into the pool, and they were all drunk, and I was like, this is so much fun. And now that I think about it, I'm like, what a weird thing to know, like how like I saw
they were like fucking like
no,
like
that did not happen.
They became an orgy. It was weird.
I've been really thinking about all the embarrassing moments I've had recently, like at the Moses house. One of which was, so I dated Alan Moses, which was Steve Moses's older brother, and we dated on and off throughout high school. And one of the times we were off, I went swimming and I dove in to their diving board, and I came up and there was all these people around, and they were all like my brother's age and just a whole bunch of boys. And I came up and I was wearing my two-piece and everything. And Alan looks at me from across the pool, and his eyes get wide, and he's going like, giving me like a thumbs up like this. And I'm like, yeah, it was a great dive. And he was like, no, like, thumbs up. And I was like, woo, I don't know what you're doing here, Alan, but whatever. And then find out my tit was out. One was, and I mean completely. So what he was not giving me a thumbs up, he was trying to say, grab your top and like pull it up this way. So I looked and was like, oh my God. And I pulled it out. And I didn't pull it out. I pulled it out.
You're like, I pulled it out even more.
And so he goes, and so afterwards, thankfully nobody else saw, or at least if they did, they didn't like pretend to see or whatever. And then he goes, so I like went up to him and I was like, oh, thank you for that. And he was like, so like, do I have to like show you a ball now? Is that like how this works? I thought that was really funny. And I was like, yes, no, it's just funny. But like, I just like that kind of stuff has been haunting me recently. All this stuff.
Why is it haunting? That's a fun story. Just pop a titty.
Honestly, nowadays, I'll just show them to people. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, sign up for Beth's OnlyFans, but it's like her with fans. Like, yeah. Augusta
and they cover.
Oh my God, burlesque.
Turned into Roxy Andrews' All-Stars 2 burlesque routine.
That was great. That was a great. All right. Sorry, we're getting distracted.
We should probably talk about the nanny now.
We're 13 episodes in. Welcome on in, everyone. 13 episodes. I'm 13 minutes. Yeah. So let's get into this. We're going to cover now The Nanny, season 2, episode 3. Everybody needs a Bubby sometimes.
She was there. That's how she became the nanny.
A Bubby.
Bubby.
Do you know what a Bubby is?
Is Bubby like a grandmother in like, is it Yiddish?
Yes. So
yeah,
I'm happy that you bring this up. We're about to like, now that we're starting to introduce Sylvia and Yetta and such a little bit more, you're going to hear them dropping a lot of Yiddish terms.
Yeah.
And Yiddish is like very prevalent, especially in New York City, because there's such a high population of Jewish families, especially in Queens and Brooklyn, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of Yiddish around here, just like a normal vernacular as you're like walking around. But what's so much fun about this, and they do talk about a little bit at the end, which we'll get to, is that, you know, the 90s were like a reclaiming of like being proud of being Jewish in a lot of media. And it was actually like really kind of a political thing that Fran Drescher was wow. I am very New York City Jew, and like, come look at my show, and like it's about me, my family, and everything that's like we stand for. So that was somewhat of a political message. So I like that we start getting these things like, oh, come here, Bubby, and like that kind of thing. You have people who were really proud of their Jewish heritage. You had people like Bette Midler and all these wonderful Jewish women who would talk about this. And so this is, then they talk about Mike Myers and SNL doing the coffee talk and doing that kind of thing.
Talk.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so a Bubby would be like someone who's like grandmother or like a motherly, like matronly kind of figure that's like you're really close with.
Yeah, and we definitely get a lot of that in this episode. This is probably the most family Fran-centric episode because like 90% of the comedy comes from the fact that Fran's family is crazy, but I love it. If I had to rate this episode, I would probably give it... I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. Okay. I thought it was really, really good. I think Yetta does a ton of the heavy lifting in this episode. But everyone really does a great job. I think the only reason I wouldn't rate it higher isn't the fact that it was bad. I just think it could be better. Like, I feel like overall, this was a great episode. This is an episode I could absolutely, like, if I was doing like a rewatch of the series, would come back to this episode because Yetta's one-liners are just so good. Like, it's so more good. Yetta, the better, please.
Here's the thing, like, and I don't know if you were really paying attention or not. This is an episode that I can't help but quote it as I watch it because, like, it's so much fun.
Girl. You were giving a lip sync performance because you were muted.
Thank you.
You were acting it out. You were giving me the theatrical version of this. It was beautiful.
It's very, really, there are so many moments like that will be used for when they do callbacks, like to like moments
I could see that.
From this episode, whether it's like Yetta or Fran or Sylvia or Niles and Cece, like there are so many, or like Maxwell getting angry, like everybody has their like quintessential moments of like who their characters are and how they're, in Maxwell's case, like how he's going to be like the straight man character. Like, I don't mean that in terms of like sexuality. I mean, that is like, he's not funny. Like he's the straight guy.
I mean, straight people are not funny.
I mean, but then like everybody else is like in their element of who that like they're quintessentially are in this episode. So when I was looking at this one, I was like, oh yeah, this one's actually a good one. The next episode I really think is really weak in comparison to the rest of them ones in the beginning of this, but this is one that you can kind of like really get into.
Yeah, it's really well done. I actually really like some of the character development stuff we get for Maxwell. I love to see Fran again come in and save the day. Seeing Yetta just interact with these family members in their environment is so hilarious. Oh my God. It is so good. And even Sylvia comes out swinging with a few great one-liners. I thought it was really, really well done. I think the weaker parts of this episode are Niles and Cece, which is why I would give it an 8. Just because while they have like some pretty funny moments, like Niles reading Cece, I think I would have loved if they were integrated more into the story of what was happening. Niles, once again, kind of is this third party that doesn't really interact with the plot ever. He's really just there, and he's reacting. I really hope that we get more Niles interactions with like the main storyline. This is like the first time in a while we've seen Cece not really have any impact on like what's happening. Which and this is just me being greedy. I just always want more Cece on the screen.
Cece's so good.
Yeah. And I really hope that we get more Niles on the screen because I feel like there is a lot of potential there. I really liked especially that Niles scene where he walks in on, or like the Yetta and Yetta's like whoever Yetta's having sex with. Saul and Niles like fully is aware of what's happening. I thought was hilarious. And I was
my bedroom is directly below theirs. Bravo.
And then he's like his face afterward.
So good.
So I would rate it an 8 out of 10. maybe even an 8.5. We're going on a 0.5 scale.
Shit.
Yeah.
Did you so I kind of want to talk about this because I really like the idea that you brought up that we're seeing more of Fran's family in their environment now, right?
Yes.
And one of your favorite episodes from season 1 was when you took them out of their environment and put them in Fran's family environment.
Yeah.
Do you think that it sometimes it's not as necessary to take them out of their environment and routine, but maybe incorporate new variables into it? Or
yeah. I think that is one of the pillars of comedy, especially comedy writing, is when you can take characters and take them out of their element or add something that makes them react differently. And so that's why I really love this dynamic. What I also really liked about this, and it was a subtle thing, they did not play with class this episode. It came down to culture. And it came down to like the differences in like how one is raised. Because typically when we talk about Fran's family, it has to do with like, there's like some element of money that is incorporated into it, or like Fran's family comes from a poor part of town. And so that's kind of the root of the humor here. The root of the humor in this one is strictly Jewish women and their families. And like, that is what this is rooted in. I liked that approach. I like that we get to use Fran's family in a different kind of comedy writing style than what we've seen in the past. And I think this is further exemplified because Yetta does such a great job of imparting hilarious wisdom to these kids. And the kids just like taking it and running with it is so funny because they look up to Fran. So of course they're going to look up to Yetta because in their mind, Fran looks up to Yetta. So I should look up to Yetta too.
And they clearly don't have some kind of grandparent influence in their life, right? We've yet to hear anything about grandparents on either one side or the other in terms of like how the kids are close with them, right? And, you know, whether we don't hear anything about Sarah's family, their mother's family at all. Like, are the parents involved? Do they have aunts and uncles? Do they have cousins? Like, we have no sense of family over there. And I like that's the real disconnect here is that Fran's family is so close and in all up in each other's business. And the Sheffields are very like learning to be a family unit, but have always very maintained like they're kind of individuals who just happen to be in a household together. And I love the beginning of this episode because it illustrates your point exactly that it's not about class, it's about culture, and it's about this difference in familiar units. Because you have the three fine women yelling at each other or arguing and that kind of thing. And Gracie going, you guys really argue all the time. They're like, oh no. And then you have like, you know, Sylvia slapping Yetta, Fran slapping Sylvia, so Yetta slapping Fran. It's just so ridiculous, but it's just so funny.
I just don't know how they didn't bust out laughing.
I'm sure they did. They had to have taken takes of this, right?
It was so good. And like, what I truly need to know is how bad is the actress that plays Yetta's vision? Because those glasses, girl, you could start a fire with those. Like so easy.
She doesn't need glasses in real life. Did
she have to like put on these horribly like?
So fun fact, the woman who played Yetta, and oh my God, her name's slipping. I got to look her up again. This is embarrassing. She just passed away a few years ago.
Let me see.
She was in the Dick Van Dyke Show as well. She played Millie in the Dick Van Dyke Show. But anyway, she had fine vision. And she's actually only 3 years older than Renee Taylor, who played Sylvia. So they're actually roughly the same age.
Oh, wow. It's Anne Morgan Gilbert.
Yes, Anne Gilbert. So she asked for Coke bottle lenses and glasses so that she really could have horrible vision and like really get into like the physicality of the character.
Wow.
So I also wanted to ask you a little bit about Yetta. So we have seen Yetta. This is only the second time we see her. We hear about her, but this is only the second time we see her. With the first time being the second episode of season 1. So we're almost a full season, actually past a full season, past the first time we saw her. And in that one, we really got her kind of being, it was almost like she was like tougher in that episode. She was like, I'm built like a horse, and she's like smoking and all that kind of stuff. And here we get that she's kind of just like not with it. And that kind of thing. Was this the kind of character that you expected with Yetta, either with how they've talked about it? Was this a little different?
I think Yetta's the same. I think Yetta, I think it's the same Yetta across the board. I think it's just Yetta fills the role of a Jewish grandmother. And so whatever advice they need the Jewish grandmother to give, they will put Yetta in that position. So in the second episode or third episode, whatever it was, Yetta needs to impart said wisdom for the story to advance. And then I think for this one, they had to fill the similar role. Well, we need a Jewish grandmother because we want to bring Yetta back. Yetta was like a really funny character in the second season. And plus like Anne Morgan Gilbert, I just got through reading her history, very famous actress. So they were like, let's get her back. Let's make her a recurring character. So it makes sense why we see Yetta here, but I think like that shows like, okay, controversial take.
Oh, bring it.
I do not like the fact that Yetta is a better established character than Niles. And we have already seen two sides of the same coin with Yetta. We have gotten nothing but flatline with Niles. We've gotten elements of his backstory. But we really haven't gotten a moment of vulnerability outside of the Butlers Association.
I think that's fair.
And even during the Butlers Association, the humor did not come from Niles. It came from Fran and Maxwell kind of flipping roles in that situation. So I know some people might not agree with me. This is why I still think I would love to see Niles get a little bit more, but I like that we've only seen Yetta 2 times, and we're getting 2 different sides of Yetta.
I think that, it's not that we're not seeing different sides of Niles. We're not seeing Niles be utilized in different ways. That exactly. Because we've seen him be like to the point where like it's kind of whiplash, where you're like, okay, now like he's sexy. A horn dog. Yeah, exactly.
It's all sexy like, and
what
weird.
What are we doing? So I think that it's more so that we don't see him being utilized in different ways for the comedy portion. Right? And he's obviously a funny character, but we're not seeing him be utilized. And part of that is because we know what we're going to get with him. Yetta's character, even though you know the gist of what she's going to do, it's very unexpected as to what she's going to say and do. You kind of have an expectation of what Niles is going to say and do. I will say this. My sense, going back, reading interviews and really looking at this and, having watched a lot of the later seasons so many more times, I think that they just don't know how to utilize a supporting character who's in every episode, who is so inherently funny in a way that it doesn't trump Fran's humor. I think that that's what they're trying to figure out versus someone like Yetta, who's kind of a guest appearance. They can bring her on and do funny things, and that she's written from Fran's point of view because it's Fran's family that she's kind of drawing from. Yeah. That is easier, I think, for Fran and the producers and the writers to incorporate in than someone who is not like Fran's background. So those are the things that I'm keeping in mind, but I think that what you're saying is completely accurate. It's the same thing with Cece. And I brought this up a number of episodes ago, but Cece at the end of season 2 told the writers, you got to start giving me comebacks. It can't just be one-sided because it's getting boring. And also it just turns into a guy picking on a woman, and that's not okay. Like, Cece is a biting character. She should have retorts. And so once Cece starts having some more things in like season 3 and 4, Niles' character changes a little bit too.
That's good. I am excited for that.
But you might have to trudge through all season 2. Sorry about it.
It's fine. It's fine. Season 2 has been great so far.
Yeah.
So let's get into like a quick breakdown of the episode.
Sure.
This first scene with Gracie and Brighton I thought was really funny, where Brighton is kind of like talking about death, and he's like, "You're gonna die. A comet's gonna hit you on your birthday," or something like that.
Yeah, around your birthday. Also, he's playing the old Game Boy, and I was just like, oh.
I miss it. But I just need to give a quick clap. They fixed Gracie's hair, and that's
they really
did. That's the true hero moment here in this episode.
That's the redemption arc for this that we.
That's the MVP is whoever fixed Gracie's hair.
It's the hairdresser.
But then Fran shows up in this amazing cheetah print outfit that I think we've seen before, but I really like it.
Yeah.
And Yetta and Sylvia appear, and it's this like hilarious moment. I really love this mindset that Sylvia thinks that Maxwell and Fran are married and that the kids
Yetta thinks that,
yeah, and Yetta thinks that Fran did I see someone else? My bad.
You said Sylvia. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then Yetta thinks that the kids are Fran's, and it's just so funny. Like,
these
Yetta's
are not Fran's children. Fran doesn't have any children. She's not married. She's all alone. Careful. I don't think they heard you in Uruguay.
I love it. That's literally what this is me watching it on Discord with Beth, and like you just like acting it out with your hands and lip syncing. It was beautiful.
Continues on. More importantly, how come no one ever eats these fruits? Because they're waxed. Even the grapes.
Her face. Yetta's face is so good.
And then Fran just goes up to her, just like puts her hand in front of her mouth and just spits it out. It's so funny.
And you can tell she was actually chewing on it too, because when it comes out, it is not like the shape of a grape. It is like it is clearly a chewed up waxy grape. So like Ann Gilbert was literally chewing on a waxy grape for this scene. I like the commitment to the role. But I really like this because they're also similar to each other. They've got similar mannerisms. They're like playing with their hair in the same way, the way that they stand, the way that they walk. They're all clearly members of the same family, and it's so well done. All three of the actresses did an amazing job, especially like just in terms of body humor language, like the way that Sylvia reacts to Yetta and how Yetta reacts to Fran and how Fran reacts to both these people within her family saying ridiculous stuff is so funny.
But I also think is great here is that you have this sense of Sylvia being embarrassed by her mother and Fran being embarrassed by her mother and her grandmother. It's like the trickle down kind of situation. But Yetta has no embarrassment. Like, that's the best part.
She does not care.
She has no fucks that she's giving.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is just really fun to watch here too is that you have the things that match and that they do kind of similar mannerisms and stuff like that. But you're also starting to see the things that maybe the Sheffields have started to show Fran, like maybe some more sophistication in certain areas. Because I like to think this is not like it's not like put canon out there ever. It's not canon. But like I like to think that some of the things that she starts getting embarrassed by are things that she never had to consider or think about because she was just in that environment. But now she's in this like upper class, like very like, classy kind of sophisticated
like Yetta
environment.
Trying to come out with her brassiere. Like,
Franny, can I come out here in just my brassiere? Will anybody see? And she's playing that like
stereotype. I want to party with Yetta.
I know. She guaranteed. Like if I had to choose, let's play this game. If you had to choose any character, recurring guest, or whatever, who are the three people you would want to have like a dinner party that turns into an actual dance party with?
I want a dinner party that turns into a dance party that turns into a fuck fest with Maxwell. So that's one. Okay. I just want the dinner party that turns into a dance party with Yetta for sure. And then obviously Fran. Like Fran would just be so much fun.
For me, it's Cece, Fran, and Yetta. Because I want to see Cece having to be a part of that environment with the two of them.
So funny. She would fucking hate herself. She'd be
but
like,
then she'd get so drunk too, because she would just throw them back the entire time.
Yeah,
I
she
think it
would.
be so fun.
That'd be great. So then we get into this hilarious moment where Sylvia has to talk to Fran and is like, well, Yetta needs a place to stay, and there's not enough room in my place, and there's plenty of room here. And
it's not even that there's not room. It's just Yetta's like, I don't want to take advantage of your mother. I don't know these people. Like, I'll take advantage of them here. And Sylvia's clearly happy that she wouldn't have to put up with her mother. Yeah.
And so Fran has to do the task of convincing Maxwell that Yetta's going to stay. And this is a great moment because Fran stands up for her family. Maxwell is kind of being a little pushy, saying no. And I forgot the comment that he makes. He makes like a comment that really sets Fran off.
So Fran sets him up is what happens, is that Fran says, you know, like, oh, she's a klepto. We wouldn't have anything left in the house. And they all start laughing. And then he basically calls her insane. And she's like, that's my grandmother you're talking about. And he's like, well, you just called her a klepto. She's like, yeah, but she's my Bubby. I can do that. You can't do that. So it's like the whole thing is a setup for Fran to manipulate Maxwell into feeling guilty in order to like bring him in.
That makes sense. That was smart. I didn't catch that it was premeditated, but it does. Now that you've explained it, I could totally see that. And then that's when we get that hilarious moment of Yetta coming in with the stereo.
You won't even know she's here. And then all of a sudden you hear like this like Yiddish pop music. And she's like bouncing back and forth while she's smoking a cigarette.
I want a gif of that so bad. Just feel like me coming into Pride.
Oh man,
that should be. If there is a GIF, we should tweet it with the episode.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's here.
I'm gonna find it for sure. There's so many good Yetta GIFs out there. So,
it's like she's such an iconic character. But yeah, that's when also it's revealed that. Fran calls Yetta the kid's grandmother, and Maxwell's like, wait a minute, she's not like even related to them. Yeah. And this is like further in like showing how integrated like Fran's family has become with Maxwell's family, that like Fran just has this, I don't know if it's like a Freudian slip or she's like, again, the premeditated thing to get him to like say something. It's the
premeditated thing, for sure.
But it
spend more time with my family than they do yours, so therefore they're family.
Yeah, it's true. And then Yetta is the best, coming with the stereo, smoking, talking about her brassiere. Honestly, I want to see Yetta in a brassiere, just listening to a stereo, smoking cigs. So this is where we get this like other plot line that I think is really well done with Maggie and this guy named Greg, who is interested in her, which I'm like, also Maggie gets around, like, girl, she's 14 and she's gotten how many, like, I remember, I guarantee you, and I'm not making this as a slight on Maggie. I'm saying girls got game, because you know how many 14-year-old girls that I grew up with that would relentlessly get made fun of, could never find a date if they wanted to. And Maggie's like pulling these dudes who look like they're like in their early 20s.
Well, I think what's really funny too is like, you know, in the first season there were like 2 or 3 guys, and now we're already on like guy number 4, right? And so this is between, she's probably 15 now in this season.
Yeah.
But like, I got thinking about it, and I was thinking about like, in middle school, everybody just found whoever their quote unquote boyfriend or girlfriend was going to be. And then like you quote unquote dated throughout that entire year. Like you weren't like dating around. And by dating, I mean like you held hands, maybe you kissed once or twice, and that was who you slow danced with at like school dances. Like it wasn't like actual dating or whatever. Then when you got into high school, that's when people started really kind of like oh, I can have different partners and that kind of thing. So I got thinking about it and I was like, you know what? Maggie, that is at that age where people start going, I'm going to date Sean for 3 months and then I'm going to see what Greg has to offer because Greg's cute and like your hormones are kicking in and all that stuff.
I guess I just can't relate because I was gay as fuck.
Yeah. No, well, I think that makes complete sense is like, when you're a straight, beautiful heiress blonde girl, like
with all this money,
all the money in the world, like you can get away with it.
Totally. Sure. Your dad's the 3rd most eligible bachelor apparently in all of Hollywood.
Widower, come on.
Yeah, widower. So Maggie and Greg are making out. They have been for a while apparently on the front porch. And
Fran's known
about it. Yeah, Fran's known about it. And Maxwell catches wind of this, and his reaction is such a great development from what he would have reacted to in the first episode. Like he's clearly had a little bit of character development here because I think the old Maxwell wouldn't have even let Maggie anywhere near that porch with a boy, and he does reprimand her for this whole interaction with Greg.
Well, first he grabs her out from like them kissing and sends him off on his way.
Yeah.
And then he reprimands her.
Yeah.
That would be so embarrassing.
Oh yeah, it was so embarrassing. Like, but I'm shocked that he even let Greg live. That's like honestly what I'm like most floored with is he just let Greg walk away. What was that?
Nope, I knocked over something, but I'm good.
Oh, I thought you spilled like seltzer or something like all over.
No, I keep my seltzer way over here.
Oh my God, you're like a professional.
No, that was me trying to lift up my keyboard and instead I just slid it like
a fiend.
I went like this.
So this is where we get a really interesting, I keep saying that. This is where we see. But this is literally where we see this great character moment where Maggie basically tells her father, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And I don't want to see you. Yeah, and I hate you. And then she storms off. And this is the first time that Maxwell's ever going to have to like be a dad. And with Maggie in the sense that like she's a teenager now and he's never had to deal with like a teenager that is mad at him. He's always had to deal with a teenager that is just hormonal and like seeing other guys. So this is like a test for Maxwell as a father because it's something that he's never had to do before. And Fran tries to give him some really good advice out of like, just leave her be. Don't go up there. Don't bother her. Give her some space, basically, is like what Fran is saying. And then they revisit that in the morning. I think correct me if I'm wrong, it's after this scene, we get Yetta.
No.
Okay.
So that night, instead of him yelling at her, Fran tells them that they should have some separation. And then Yetta goes, and takes her upstairs and they have a conversation because the next morning when he's upset still and she's and Fran comes down and goes, are you still upset? And all that kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to face her. Like all those different kinds of things. She comes down and she says, Yetta told me I only get one father and that I'm sorry that I said I hated you and that kind of thing. And then she kisses him and on the cheek and like, it's kind of like everything's like made up and fine. So like Yetta's talk went over really well that she listened to Yetta and Maxwell's really happy about that. And then Maxwell compliments Fran's boobie.
She's like, yeah.
I underestimated your boobie. I mean, Bubby.
She's like, I've never heard that one before. No one's ever underestimated my boobie. I also love when Yetta is walking with Maggie upstairs. It was like, you want a cig?
That's my favorite thing. Fran's like, she'll be a really great influence on her. Do you want a cigarette? It's like
the way she says it too. You want a cigarette? Like the way.
Cigarette?
It's just so many iconic lines. So then we get to that scene later that night. Or is it it's in the morning Where
the rest of the family comes down, and as soon as they sit down, Grace goes, "I smell something," and they smell something burning.
That's right.
So then they run upstairs because they're like, "Oh my god!" I'm sure the first thought was Yetta's cigarette probably lit something on fire. So they run upstairs. She's not answering the door, and Maxwell kicks it down in. It's hot.
It's very hot. I was shocked that the audience wasn't like, woo! Because I would have been in the audience like, my panties. Like, I don't know.
Just throw them onto the soundstage.
Yeah. Fuck me. I don't know.
You're like a black lacy jockstrap.
Me like the door, Maxwell. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I know, right?
Break my back in like you broke that door.
Exactly. Speaking of breaking backs, this is where we see Yetta on all fours with Sal a clean 4 inches inside of her.
Sal was on all fours and she had
Yetta
the strap on, baby.
Yeah, she did.
You know that she would have been pegging the shit out of Sal.
With a cigarette and everything. Like,
come on, Sal.
Come on, Sal. I don't know. This is hilarious. This whole interaction, the body language of Sal and Yetta in bed is so good. Them like hiding under the covers. It's just genius.
This is another scene that I can quote word for word. I won't do it now, but I can quote this whole scene word for word. It's so good.
It's great. And that's where we talked about this earlier, but Niles, realizing like he's known about this for a while, and the fact that like it is established that Sal has been here for a while,
all night
all night and Yetta's just been getting it. And honestly, props to you, Yetta. Get it, girl.
That is also one of my favorite things about this episode. I know that we are skipping ahead a little bit here, but that when Cece is making fun of everything, and Niles goes, and she's like, nothing could ruin my day. And he goes, wanna bet? And then he goes, Grandma Yetta, aged 83, living in a home, got a heap of good lovin' last night. And you?
It's so just the build up to it, and then Cece's just silent, and then she's like, I hate my life.
And then I did this earlier, but I'll do it again. Thank you. That is what Niles does.
He's so extra. I love it.
It's my favorite.
And poor Cece. You know what? I would have really loved it if she would have turned around and been like, and you? Like, you sat there and jerked off while listening to Grandma Yetta get plowed, you weirdo.
I don't think that's weird at all. Just kidding.
Like, start me the fuck up.
It would have been great if he was like, I joined them.
He's like, I was watching from
I held the camera
in the corner. Yeah. So out of the outfit of the episode then shows up. It's Fran in this beautiful crop top sweater with this like pleather leather skirt and these beautiful black boots. Loved this
it was
outfit.
Really cute.
Yeah. I just think it's so cute. We need to make that come back. Crop top sweaters.
I feel like I've seen some recently. Not like exactly that style, but like the crop top is definitely coming back for all body shapes and sizes, which I'm here for.
Yeah, I'm here for more like crop tops. Crop top everything. Give me a crop top hoodie. I mean, I'm not going to pull it off, but do you, boo boo? Like, if anyone's
you could pull one off for sure.
I'm not wearing a crop top. I just need everything to be crop topped.
Yeah.
So then this is where Yetta warns Fran about Cece, because she's just like, Fran, I got to tell you something. Your kids are blonde.
She's like, I think your marriage would be better off if you got rid of that blonde your husband's always working with. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but all of your kids are blonde.
So good. Her delivery is just so great because it's so subtle. She's like, hey, Hey, I got a secret to
I
tell
got
you.
something to tell. My other favorite thing that she does in this scene is it goes, Franny, you left your wallet on the dresser. And she's like, so? And then she does this like little look like, because the butler will steal it.
Yeah. Yetta, I honestly might go back just to watch the Yetta scenes. It's so good.
It's so good.
But then this is where because they've been freaking out about this advice that Yetta had given to Maggie, or that they think that was given to Maggie to basically go for it. You know, you only live life once. Go for it. Go for Greg. And that's when Maxwell's like, Maxwell's freaking out. He's like, oh my God, she's too young to be having sex. We haven't had the talk with her. She has no idea what she's getting into. And he's pissed off at Yetta. Rightfully so.
He's pissed off at Fran.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's pissed off at Fran for allowing her to convince him to allow Yetta in the house. But honestly, he should be kind of mad here. Not at Fran. I think he should be mad at Yetta for like, if Yetta had actually been like, yeah, go for it. Without proper, like, proper conversation about it.
And the thing that he's most upset about is that at this point, she is out on a picnic date, and this is predates cell phones or anything like that. So there is nothing that he can do to get into contact with her. And he thinks, oh my God, she is out there losing her V card right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Fran's like, good, she should, no, just kidding.
And this is where I keep saying that. I need to stop saying this is where. But we learn that Yetta did not tell Maggie that advice. Instead, that going for it advice was given to Gracie. Because I forgot like what it was that Gracie was. She
was freaking out about, a comet hitting Earth and that they're all going to die and that kind of thing.
So she's like, you only live once.
And so she was basically saying, like, go for it. Like, go out and live your life. Like, don't just like be sitting home in fear. And so, like, she comes downstairs and Yetta goes, how did you sleep? Like, what are you going to do today? And she's like, I'm going to go for it. And she's like, that's a good girl. And then Fran goes, I thought you said that to Maggie. And she goes, no. And she goes, I did. Is that not Maggie? And she said, no, that's Grace. She goes, Grace is the small one. Shmooey's the middle one. And Maggie's is the tall one. And she's like, hot pants? Tell her to go for
hot
it?
Pants?
What would your husband would kick me out if I told her that?
I just love that Fran never she does correct, but like Yetta never gets it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, the fact that Brighton also fully gets $100 from Yetta for his bar mitzvah.
And I love that it's in the form of a check also.
Yeah, there you go. Which I don't know if you know much about bar and bat mitzvahs or whatever, but like that, I mean, you get a lot of money from people.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And they're always in checks.
I didn't know they were always in checks.
It's pretty much only in checks that I've understood. I mean, in the 90s. I don't know. That's probably very different now. I'm sure people come up and Venmo you now.
Yeah, I was like, here's your Venmo.
What's your Venmo?
Yeah.
Like
here's your Bitcoin.
Here's your like in the Venmo like message. It's just like a whole bunch of like trying to find like emojis that like stand for bar mitzvah.
It's like a bunch of them like holding a chair up or like
like in the Star of David.
Yeah.
All these things. Yeah, it'd be really cute.
So then we end off this episode with this extra scene where, or not extra, but like the B plot of sorts of this episode with Maggie and Greg, where Maggie is coming home and Fran has to like calm Maxwell down. You cannot be reactionary. You need to like build trust with Maggie. You cannot hover over her, because if you break that trust now, it's going to be very difficult to get that trust back when she's much older.
And that like, she's going to actually be involved in a lot of things over the next few years where she's going to need to know that she can come to you and talk things out.
Exactly. And this is great advice that Fran is giving Maxwell, especially as someone that, Fran has never raised kids before. So this is great advice that has been imparted to her from her family, because this is all about family. So I'm assuming this is Sylvia has like gone through this. Yetta's gone through this with Sylvia. What?
It's so funny to me because it's just like, this is where you see Fran in her element, which is I grew up and I know what it's like to be a teenage girl, and I was a rebel and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to tell you the things that would have been great for me to know and the things that my family did for me that worked. And like, this is, Maxwell is always so aloof and out of his element, and he's so overprotective, and he's misogynistic, and there's all these things to it, right? But I love that Fran knows how to play him like a violin.
For sure.
And sometimes it's for her benefit, but a lot of the times that ends up being for the kid's benefit too.
And I love after Maxwell is sent up, Fran turns around and immediately goes in on Maggie. You're like, what the fuck were you thinking, you dumb, stupid bitch? And
she's like, late on curfew. And also
grabs her by the hair, slams her head into the wall. She's like, don't you ever fucking do it. She's like freaking out.
Yeah. And then Yetta comes down and goes, oh, that's so funny. Not even 10 minutes ago, Saul and I did the same thing.
And Cece's in the corner like, I fucking hate my life.
And then Niles was like, I'll go get the camera.
And that was the deleted scene. They decided obviously not to add that in. The MPAA was like, let's go with this. Let's go with plan B. And so in the plan B ending, she goes and yells at Maggie, but it comes from like a place of love. And she tells her that Maggie tells her that she decides that she's not going to move fast with Greg. And that's just something that
they're going to cool it.
Yeah, she's going to cool it down because that's just something she doesn't want. So it's like, putting the choice in Maggie's court, and it's not the dad telling her.
And what I like about this too is that I actually think now that I'm looking back, like one of the things I always struggled with in high school and college and then well into my 20s is that when we talk about sex or like making out or anything like that, in any of the education I had in school, I was never taught about consent. I was never taught about that kind of thing. And I always felt like if I were to make out with somebody, that I was giving them free reign of my body. And that was why I think I felt very closed off. Like I didn't want to like really make out with people. I felt uncomfortable doing it. I felt like I was also like going to church then. So I felt like I was sinning. Like there were things that my parents never were like, you're a sinner. Like they were never like that. But I just kind of got that feeling. Right. And what I love about this moment is that she has decided on her own that she needs to put the brakes on. And she's like made out with him for hours on end. She's done all these things and that she's not comfortable moving forward at this time. And that she said, we decided. So it sounds like he's also in on that conversation. There's so many subliminal parts to this that for a 90s show, I'm like really impressed with that. And this is something that I always think about when I watch this episode is how much she was like, no, we decided to cool it. And then I love that she has that follow-up moment where she says, you don't think that I'd actually do anything serious without talking with you first, right? Yep. So like the idea that she wouldn't just like, not that I'm a true believer that teenagers at that age are far too young to have sex because they don't understand the gravity of emotional connection and manipulation and stuff that can happen within sex. But I also understand that it's going to happen with a lot of people and that it shouldn't be shamed. It just should be, you should be able to have resources and people to talk to and decide if it's right for you. And I would argue that it's probably not right for a lot of people, but some people that might be fine. And that's whatever. I love that she has that moment where she says, I wouldn't engage with this without interacting with you first. I would, love it. I love that.
And I also really like that. That's like what we're left off with. So like, there's no like ambiguity. What's the word? Oh my God.
There's no ambiguity.
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 Of what the message is at the end, because that's like the final scene. Besides like the funny scene at the end where I didn't catch the reference, but
and they were talking about coffee talk.
Coffee talk with their it's
with
so
Mike
funny
Myers from SNL.
Yeah, we watched obviously the ending scene of this episode, and then I went back and watched the coffee talk, and I was even like, did coffee talk make fun of Fran? And it was like, no, the other way around. And I was like, oh my God, they
did coffee talk before they did the nanny, but they're drawing off of the same thing. And so what I love with that closing scene is like who talks like that? And God, all their hair that tall is they're like all like pressing up their hair.
Yeah.
And it is so funny because I'm so used to seeing these characters. They'll be like with the big hair. But for me, I'm like so used to watching them. I'm like, the hair's not that big. But then if I were to see them in real life, I'd be like, oh my God, your hair is so tall.
Look at this drag queen. That's what I was.
Exactly. Look at Trixie Mattel in front of me with like.
Honestly, Trixie is a. Sylvia. Yeah.
Been saying it for years. There's so many outfits where Trixie will do things. And I'm like, that's a Sylvia. Her All Stars 3 promo look. Tell me you couldn't see Sylvia pulling off that.
Yeah, I could see it.
Especially once you get into the later season, she wears a lot of pantsuits, and I'm like, like a unit, like almost like a one piece, like, and I'm like, that's so it.
Trixie Mattel. But yeah, this was a great episode. I thought it was really well delivered. My only critiques are I just wish there was more Cece and Niles. That's basically it.
So who is your LVP and your MVP for the episode?
My MVP definitely has to go to Fran. Fran was the one who...
That is shocking to me.
Oh, I would have given it to Yetta.
I thought you were going Yetta hardcore.
But Yetta... I would have given it to Yetta, but Yetta comes in and is just being Yetta. Fran saves the day. Like at the end of the day with... their advice and like really doing a good job of mediating this relationship between Maxwell and Maggie. My LVP would probably have to go to probably Maxwell because he doesn't really understand. But it's tough because I don't know if I want to give it to Maxwell because he has already showcased he's not the best father. So I'm faulting him for something that he is aware of.
I have an LVP in mind that for me, it would be for you.
Yeah. What is it?
My LVP would be Sylvia.
Okay.
Because
she just left her grandma or Yetta.
It's like she kind of rudely was like, my mother is just going to have to come be with you. And instead of like, the more polite thing to do in that situation would be to be like, Mr. Sheffield, I would like to talk with you, not put it on Fran, who is your employee who lives with you, and see if this is something that you could do. Sylvia, though we love her very much, is a very self-serving character.
Yeah.
And so in this situation, if we're talking purely on, like, when I think of LVP and everything, I think of them very differently from you. I think of like who made me like happy and joyful and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So like for me, like an LVP like would be like, I don't know, CC for this one because she didn't do anything, but an MVP would be Yetta. But when you're talking about like the general like scope of like how the plot lines and like the character development, all that kind of stuff, that's something that
I agree with you. I think LVP should go to Sylvia because Sylvia does come in, doesn't have anything redeeming happening for Sylvia, and just does some shitty thing about leaving Yetta there. So yeah, LVP Sylvia. This is the first time Sylvia's getting LVP.
I know. It's interesting.
But Fran definitely, I think, earned MVP, if not Yetta. Yetta also did a great job.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was The Nanny, season 2, episode 3. Everybody, wait. Everybody
needs a Bubby sometimes.
Yeah, everybody needs a Bubby sometimes.
So the next episode is called Material Fran. What do you think this is about?
Material Fran. Okay. So hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is going to happen is Fran's been living this lifestyle with the Sheffields for a while. And maybe something happens where like she stumbles upon some money and goes and spends it all shopping, doing all this stuff. And her friend, oh my God, what's her friend's name? Val is kind of irritated because Fran is acting different now that she has money. And it's the message of the episode is to get Fran back to her roots. And I'm assuming Material Fran is called Material Girl. Like, yes. I am a material girl. Yeah. So I'm thinking like maybe it is something along the lines of that. It's not going to be anything like that, but I'm just making up the plot in my head.
I will tell you that you were not so far off. I mean, you're not on the money, but you were not incredibly far off. So I think that's okay. I'm happy that you got the reference of the title because they oftentimes are it's a play on words.
Oh, for sure,
titles and such. So
make sure if you're watching at home that you go and check out that episode because HBO Max has the episodes all over the place. They're not in order. So that is Material Fran. Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode of Hot Mess Moments. If you wish to tweet at us at Hot Mess Moments, or if you want to send any of your lovely spoiler-filled comments about the nanny, send them over to Beth at Augusta111.
Yes, and today, you know what I did, Dylan, is I set up a link tree finally. I don't know if you know what those are.
Yes, please.
And I set up a link tree.
2 seasons.
I know. For me, I set it up for me personally. But what I did with it is I listed on my link tree where you could find Hot Mess Moments and all that kind of stuff on there too. So if you are interested, feel free to check us out on our Twitter there. If you were interested to hear all of our thoughts on Lost episode 3 of season 2, Orientation, check us out on Thursday when the episode will be dropped. I'm very excited. I have so much to say.
Girl, that episode is probably one of the most lore dumpy episodes.
I have 2 pages of notes and I was like, there's a part of me that wants to be able to watch it again where I'm not writing notes constantly.
We could, if you want, like maybe we could watch it like right before so for those who don't know, this is the first week that we're not recording both episodes side by side. So we're going to be recording on Tuesday our episode of Lost. So we could technically rewatch the episode beforehand.
Can we watch it at like 1.5 speed? Kind of like kind of thing, just so we can get the gist or whatever. But if there's a moment where I'm like, slow this down.
Let's do that. We'll do that.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, yeah. So we'll rewatch the episode beforehand. Also, there is a lot to take in. So that's same with anyone back at home. If you are a fan of Lost, go rewatch the episode. I've had a few people, like Hannah, who's in my community, be like, "Oh my God, I'm so into season 2. I've already watched all the way to episode 6." And I'm like waiting for you all to like get through these 6 episodes. Yeah, because she's like, they're all so good. And I was like, I know, we're getting there.
I have the same thing with people telling me like, I can't wait for you to get to X moment in season 2 and of the nanny and like that kind of thing. Because I do have to say that I misremembered how good the first few episodes of season 2 are. I've always thought of it as being kind of like a slump and then it comes back. The slump starts with episode 4. And then I think it goes until episode 8 and like basically until HBO gets their shit together with like the numbering.
Yeah.
And then it's a solid season again. The next few, they're not bad episodes. They're just not as good as the first 3.
There are going to be some stinkers. So yeah, if you guys want to join us on the ride, make sure to tune in next week for another episode of The Nanny Recap. Also, make sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us out tremendously. And please share our podcast with any friends, fans of these shows, or fellas that you know.
And if you have a second, literally 30 seconds or so to write us a review, tell us like, you know, how much you love us or whatever. Or if you have critiques of things that we can learn from, please do that. That helps our algorithm out so much if you're willing to leave a 5-star rating and a review.
Leave us a comment on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. We're getting there. We keep fluctuating between 70 subscribers and 69 and 71. hit that sweet, beautiful sub button if you want on YouTube, so we can try to get up to 100 subs. That'd be amazing.
I also want to do a brief shout out to Jamie Gray, who is a fellow Twitch streamer, a wonderful trans LGBTQIA plus streamer, who's kind of been going back and forth with streaming. But Jamie joined my community a few years ago, and on Friday when I was streaming, they came in and they said, I have been driving so much recently, and Hot Mess Moments is the only thing that's getting me through my drives. Like, you and Dylan have literally saved my life, where I'm not falling asleep behind the wheel, and all that fun stuff. So first of all, please drive safely. But secondly, shout out to Jamie. Thank you so much for that feedback. And I wanted to share it here.
Oh, that's so amazing. And just know that we do read all the comments. So yes, do. Angela, Jackie, everyone, Tyler, everyone who regularly comments on all the videos, we are reading them. We love your comments so much. But we will see you all next week for another episode of The Nanny. And until then, all right, bye, y'all.
Bye.